The impossible beginning. It started as just another stream, just another day in the life of Darren Watkins Jr., better known to the world as IShowSpeed. He was sitting in his room in Cincinnati, Ohio, doing what he always did, screaming at video games, talking to his chat, being the chaotic energy that millions had come to love. But on this particular day, something was different. He made an announcement that seemed innocent enough. "Yo chat, I'm going on a world tour. I'm gonna meet you guys in person. All of you." His chat exploded with excitement, but nobody, not his fans, not his team, not even Speed himself, could have predicted what would happen next. What started as a simple idea to connect with fans would transform into something the internet had never witnessed before. This wasn't supposed to happen. A kid from Cincinnati wasn't supposed to break the internet in real life. Governments weren't supposed to get involved. Airports weren't supposed to shut down. But they did. And this is the story of how one streamer became bigger than the platform that made him famous. But before we continue this insane journey, I need to tell you something real. People have been saying my channel can't grow beyond 100,000 subscribers. They say the algorithm won't allow it. They say the content isn't mainstream enough. But I believe in something bigger. I believe in you. If this story grips you, if you want to see more deep dives like this, hit that subscribe button right now. Let's prove them wrong together. Now back to the day the world stopped for IShowSpeed. Norway. The first warning. The first stop was Norway. And that's when everyone realized this wasn't going to be a normal tour. Speed landed in Oslo expecting maybe a few hundred fans at the airport. What he got instead was complete and utter chaos. Over 10,000 people flooded the Oslo airport. Teenagers, young adults, even parents with their kids, all screaming his name. "Speed, speed, speed," the chant echoed through the terminals like a war cry. Security had never seen anything like it. The airport wasn't designed for this. Police were called in as crowds pushed against barriers, phones held high, everyone desperate for just a glimpse of him. Speed himself looked genuinely shocked as he stepped off that plane. You could see it in his eyes. This was beyond anything he'd imagined. His security team formed a tight circle around him, but the crowd was relentless, pressing forward like a wave. Airport operations were delayed. For the first time in his career, Speed realized he wasn't just an internet celebrity anymore. He was a phenomenon, a force that could literally stop an international airport in its tracks. The Norwegian police issued a statement later that day calling it unprecedented crowd activity. But Norway was just the beginning. The world hadn't seen anything yet. Albania. When governments get involved. Then came Albania, and that's when things escalated from chaotic to absolutely unprecedented. When Speed's plane touched down in Tirana, the Albanian government had already been monitoring social media. They knew he was coming. They'd seen what happened in Norway, but nothing could have prepared them for what unfolded. Over 50,000 people descended on the streets of Tirana. 50,000 people. For a streamer. The Prime Minister of Albania, Edi Rama, had to make an emergency statement on national television asking citizens to remain calm and stay home. Think about that for a second. A sitting Prime Minister addressing his nation about a Twitch streamer's visit. The streets became rivers of humanity, all flowing toward wherever Speed was spotted. His motorcade required a full police escort, not the casual kind, but the kind reserved for presidents and world leaders. Armored vehicles, motorcycle cops, sirens blaring through the ancient streets of Tirana. Local businesses shut down because their employees abandoned their posts to catch a glimpse. Schools reported mass absences. The entire city came to a standstill. Speed stood on a balcony overlooking the crowd, and when he waved, the roar that erupted could be heard for miles. He wasn't just breaking the internet anymore, he was breaking reality itself. And listen, I know what you're thinking. How does this even happen? That's exactly why I make these videos, to explore the moments that don't make sense, the cultural earthquakes that change everything. But here's the thing. Channels like mine struggle to grow because we don't follow the algorithm's playbook. We tell real stories. So if you're still watching, if you're as captivated by this as I am, smash that subscribe button. Help me prove that authentic storytelling still matters. Let's grow this thing together and hit that 100K milestone they said was impossible. Now, let's talk about what happened in Southeast Asia. Southeast Asia, The tsunami. If Albania was a preview, Southeast Asia was the main event. Speed's arrival in Jakarta, Indonesia, was like nothing the region had ever experienced. Over 100,000 people, yes, you read that right, 100,000, tried to gather at various locations throughout the city to see him. The Indonesian government deployed military personnel alongside police. Not for a political rally, not for a national emergency, for IShowSpeed. Traffic in Jakarta, already notoriously congested, became completely paralyzed. The gridlock extended for miles in every direction. Emergency services couldn't get through. The government issued advisories urging people to avoid the city center entirely. Speed's hotel was surrounded by a sea of humanity so dense that aerial footage looked like a concert venue at maximum capacity. Except this wasn't a venue, it was just streets. Public streets that had become pilgrimage sites. His team had to coordinate with local authorities for every single movement. When he wanted to visit a local market, it required hours of planning, decoy vehicles, and security checkpoints. Even then, the moment he was spotted, the crowd surged forward with such force that barriers collapsed. People climbed lampposts, hung from balconies, stood on car roofs, anything for a better view. Social media exploded with footage. But here's what made it truly surreal. The Indonesian Minister of Youth and Sports released a statement praising Speed for inspiring the youth and demonstrating the power of digital connection. A government minister officially commenting on a streamer's visit. The Speed effect. Economy and culture. What was happening wasn't just crowd chaos. It was economic and cultural disruption on a scale never before seen from a single internet personality. Economists started tracking what they called the Speed effect. In every city he visited, local businesses saw unprecedented surges. Restaurants he ate at had lines extending for blocks the next day. Hotels he stayed in sold out instantly with people booking rooms just to be in the same building. Merchandise vendors selling anything speed-related made months' worth of revenue in single afternoons. But it went deeper than commerce. In the Philippines, when Speed visited a local basketball court and played with kids, that port became a landmark overnight. The local government had to install plaques and barriers because so many people started making pilgrimages to where Speed played basketball. In Thailand, a street food vendor he bought from became so famous that the vendor's life completely changed. Interview requests, sponsorship deals, a waiting list for his food that extended weeks into the future. All because Speed bought a $5 meal from him. Sociologists began studying the phenomenon, trying to understand how a single person could create this level of real-world impact through purely digital means. Academic papers were written, news organizations ran special segments, think pieces flooded major publications asking, is this the future of celebrity? Has the internet finally surpassed traditional fame? You know what's crazy? This video you're watching right now might not even reach most of my subscribers because YouTube's algorithm is, well, it's complicated. If you're learning something new, if this story is blowing your mind like it blew mine when I researched it, do me a favor. Hit that like button and drop a comment. Just one word, any word. It tells YouTube this content matters. And subscribe if you haven't yet. We're building something special here. And I need your help to prove the doubters wrong. Alright, let's talk about when Speed went to South America. Brazil, the breaking point. Brazil was where everything reached its absolute peak, and where things got genuinely dangerous. Sao Paulo had been anticipating Speed's arrival for weeks. Social media was ablaze, fan groups organized, everyone knew he was coming, but nobody was prepared for the sheer scale of what unfolded. When Speed's motorcade entered the city, over 200,000 people were estimated to be on the streets. 200,000. The Brazilian military had to be mobilized. Helicopters circled overhead. The footage looks like something out of a movie, a presidential convoy, except it's protecting a 20-year-old kid who screams at Minecraft. At one point, the crowd became so dense and so frenzied that Speed's security team made the decision to abort a planned public appearance. It was too dangerous. People were getting crushed. Medical teams were treating dozens for crowd-related injuries, dehydration, trampling, panic attacks. Speed himself posted on social media from his hotel room, visibly shaken, asking fans to please be safe and stay back. "I love you guys, but I don't want anyone getting hurt because of me," he said, and you could hear the genuine fear and concern in his voice. The mayor of Sao Paulo held a press conference calling the situation unprecedented and asking for Speed's cooperation in managing future appearances. A mayor holding a press conference about crowd control for a Twitch streamer. The Brazilian media ran 24/7 coverage, with news helicopters following his movements like he was a breaking news event. The backlash and the questions. But not everyone was celebrating. As Speed's tour continued and the chaos escalated, a counter-narrative began to emerge. Critics started asking uncomfortable questions. Was this responsible? Should one person have this much influence over masses of young people? Some accused Speed of being reckless, of not properly preparing for the impact of his presence. Psychologists warned about parasocial relationships reaching dangerous levels. Local governments in some countries began quietly suggesting that maybe Speed shouldn't visit, that the risk to public safety was too great. Opinion pieces appeared in major newspapers with headlines like, "When Internet Fame Becomes Real-World Danger," and the IShowSpeed phenomenon, Cult of Personality in the Digital Age. Speed himself seemed torn. In streams he'd oscillate between being amazed by the love and being genuinely troubled by the chaos. "I just wanted to meet my fans, bro," he said during one emotional moment. "I didn't know it would be like this." His team scrambled to adjust, implementing stricter protocols, canceling some appearances, coordinating more extensively with local authorities. But the fundamental question remained: how do you control something that has grown beyond control? How do you manage a level of fame that the modern world hasn't built infrastructure to handle? Because here's the uncomfortable truth that emerged. Our systems, our cities, our security protocols, our understanding of celebrity, none of it was designed for this. For someone who built their fame entirely online, suddenly manifesting that fame in physical space at this scale. Real talk for a second. The reason I dig into stories like this is because they reveal truths about our world that we don't usually see. But creating this content, it's tough when the algorithm doesn't push it. When people say you'll never break 100K, but I believe in community over algorithm. If you're still here, if you value this kind of analysis, subscribe. Share this video. Leave a comment about which part shocked you most. Together, we can build something that defies expectations. Now, let's get to the moment everything changed. India, the pinnacle. And then Speed went to India, and the entire world had to stop and take notice. Mumbai, Delhi, Bangalore, each city became a testament to just how global, how massive, how utterly unprecedented his influence had become. In Mumbai alone, estimates suggested over 500,000 people, 500,000, attempted to see him at various points throughout his visit. The Indian government deployed thousands of police officers across multiple cities. Traffic systems collapsed. Metro stations became overwhelmed. Schools and businesses sent employees home early to avoid the gridlock. When Speed visited a cricket stadium, the scenes were comparable to when actual cricket legends appeared, except Speed doesn't play cricket, he plays FIFA on stream. Major Indian news networks provided live coverage of his movements, with Speed watch graphics and minute-by-minute updates. Bollywood celebrities posted about him. Cricket stars acknowledged him. The Prime Minister's social media team even liked a post about his visit. The Prime Minister of the world's most populous nation, acknowledging a streamer from Cincinnati. But here's what really drove it home. Indian telecommunications companies reported record-breaking data usage in cities Speed visited, as millions simultaneously streamed, posted, and shared content about his presence. He literally impacted national infrastructure. Speed stood on stages looking out at crowds that extended beyond the horizon. And in those moments, you can see the weight of it in his eyes. The recognition that he'd become something bigger than himself. Bigger than streaming. Bigger than the internet that made him. The aftermath, what it all meant. When Speed finally returned home to Cincinnati after months on the road, the world he left was different from the one he returned to. Media analysts were calling his tour the most significant real-world manifestation of internet culture in history. Universities announced they'd be teaching case studies about the IShowSpeed phenomenon in sociology and media studies courses. Documentary crews began following him for projects about digital celebrity and its impact on society. But perhaps most significantly, the entire influencer industry had to recalibrate. Talent agencies realized that internet fame had officially surpassed traditional celebrity in terms of raw cultural power. Brands began approaching digital creators differently, with the respect and resources previously reserved for movie stars and athletes. Governments and event planners worldwide started developing new protocols specifically for high-impact digital personality visits. Speed himself seemed changed by the experience. In interviews, he spoke more thoughtfully about his influence and responsibility. "I used to just think I was entertaining people online," he said. "But when you see hundreds of thousands of people in real life, when you see governments responding to you, when you see the actual impact, it's different, man. It's heavy." He established foundations, started scholarship programs, became more selective about sponsorships and messaging. The kid who screamed at video games had evolved into something else entirely, a global figure grappling with unprecedented influence. The legacy. When the internet became real. So what does it all mean? The day the world realized IShowSpeed was bigger than the internet wasn't actually a single day. It was months of escalating realization that we'd crossed a threshold. That the line between online and real life had dissolved completely. That a person could build an empire, a movement, a force of nature using nothing but personality, authenticity, and a webcam. Speed's tour proved that digital connection isn't somehow less real than traditional fame. In many ways, it's more real, more intense, more powerful, because it's built on genuine connection, rather than corporate manufacturing. Those crowds weren't there because marketing teams told them to be. They were there because they felt personally connected to someone they'd watched grow, struggle, succeed, and fail in real time. Where a streamer from Ohio can shut down airports, mobilize military forces, influence economies, and force governments to respond. Where the internet doesn't just reflect reality, it creates it, shapes it, dominates it. And Speed, he became the living embodiment of that transformation. Not the first internet celebrity, but perhaps the first to truly demonstrate the full magnitude of what digital influence means in physical space. The world realized IShowSpeed was bigger than the internet the moment they understood he'd transcended it entirely. That he'd become something the internet created but could no longer contain. And listen, you just witnessed something special. You stuck with this entire journey, this wild story that seems impossible, but actually happened. That means something. It means you value depth, real storytelling, content that makes you think. I'm trying to build a channel that defies the odds, that grows beyond what the experts say is possible. They say 100K is the ceiling for content like this. Let's shatter that ceiling together. Subscribe, like this video, comment Speed if you made it to the end. Share this with someone who needs to hear this story. Let's prove that great content, real stories, and authentic community can win. Because if Speed can go from his bedroom to shutting down countries, we can definitely hit 100K together. Thank you for being here.